people in the room that are what I call Sunday morning church people, you may have noticed that pretty much every church probably just got done asking you for money for their pledge campaign, not their capital campaign. But they probably asked you money for that too. And while pledge campaigns are important because those pledges are how we fund our various ministries, including keeping the lights on in the building, we as a church recognize that college students don't generally have funds to give towards pledge campaigns. So I thought it would be an appropriate topic for tonight for us to talk about giving when you have little to give. And so when I went through confirmation in 2018 in the 8th grade, one of the most vivid things I remember out of the entire, 12, 13 weeks of confirmation was this parable called the starfish story. And it is not a biblical parable, but it is a really neat parable. And so I'm going to read it for you. A young man was walking alongside the ocean and sees a beach on which thousands and thousands of starfish have washed ashore. Further along, he sees an old man walking slowly and stopping often, picking up a starfish one after another and tossing it gently into the ocean. "Why are you tossing starfish into the ocean?" he asks. "Because the sun is up and the tide is going out, and if I don't throw them further in, they will die." But the old man said, "Don't you recognize there are miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You can't possibly save them all. You can't even save 1/10 of them. In fact, even if you work all day, your efforts won't make any difference at all." And the old man listened, and he bent down, and he picked one up, and he tossed the starfish into the sea. And he said, it made a difference to that one. And so I think it's just a really neat little story, and it's significant to me because it reminds me that even small things matter. The young man didn't save every starfish, but he made a difference with the ones that he could. And we see similar parables in the Bible too, of times where small things ended up making big ripples. And so, there's a parable in Luke 16 that Grace is going to read for us.
Okay, this is called The Story of the Crooked Manager. Jesus said to his disciples, "There was once a rich man who had a manager. He got reports that the manager had been taking advantage of his position by running up huge personal expenses. So he called him in and said, 'What's this I hear about you? You're fired, and I want a complete audit of your books.' The manager said to himself, 'What am I going to do? I've lost my job as a manager. I'm not strong enough for a laboring job, and I'm too proud to beg. I've got a plan. Here's what I'll do. Then when I'm turned out into the street, people will take me into their houses.' Then he went at it. One after another, he called in the people who were in debt to his master. He said to the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 jugs of olive oil.' The manager said, 'Here, take your bill. Sit down here. Quick now, write 50. To the next he said, 'And you, what do you owe?' He said, 100 sacks of wheat. He said, 'Take your bill, write in 80. Now here's a surprise. The master praised the crooked manager. And why? Because he knew how to look after himself. Streetwise people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens. They are on constant alert, looking for angles, surviving by their wits. I want you to be smart in the same way, but for what is right, using every adversity to stimulate you to creative survival, to concentrate your attention on the bare essentials, so you'll live, really live, and not complacently just get by on good behavior.'"
Thanks. I also should have told you that's Luke 16, 1 through 13. And that was from the Message Bible. And so you're probably thinking, Morgan, why, of all the parables in the Bible, would you pick that parable? And it's because it doesn't get used very often, and I think it has a really important message to give. But it's also kind of confusing, and so I thought we would act it out together. So I have some volunteers that offered to help me act out.
Yay!
Okay, you're the rich man?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Can I hold this? This is your bank. Stand over behind, not behind Alan, so everyone can see you. Thank you. Person 1 and 2, here you go. No, it doesn't matter. Okay. Here is the story. So, the rich man has generously agreed to loan some money for stickers to people. And the rich man realizes that he has so many people borrowing his stickers, he realized he needs to hire a manager. So he hired his manager, and things were good for a while. But reports started to come in, and the rich man realized his manager was running up huge personal expenses on the company. So the rich man called him in and said, "You are fired, and I want a complete audit of your books." The manager said to himself, "What am I going to do if I don't have a job? I'm not equipped for physical labor." The manager thought for a minute and then said, "Wait! I have a plan. I'll go to all the houses of all the people that owe the rich man money, and I'll ask for just some of it back. And when I'm stuck in the streets, maybe they'll invite me to come into their homes, and I won't be on the street." So he did just that. He went to the person with the big eye animals. And he said, "How many animals do you have?" And the person said, "I have 15. And the manager said to him, "Here, take your bill and write in 7. So the man gave 7 stickers to the rich man. Then he went to the man with the sleeping animals and said, "How many animals do you have?" And the man replies, 20. So the manager said, "Here, take your bill. Write in 13. So the man gave 13 stickers back to the rich man. And the rich man was so impressed at the manager's community building skills that he wasn't mad at the manager anymore. And the end. That's our story acting.
Fantastic job.
Katie's face was like related.
She's almost there.
It's left you hanging up.
I know if I kept looking
Job slow.
Good job. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Why would Jesus tell us about a manager who changes people's debts? But when you look closer, it's a story about someone who gives when he has almost nothing left. The manager has lost his job, his money, his reputation, but instead of giving up, he uses what little influence he has left to help others. And that's the kind of wisdom Jesus praises. But the creativity to still do good when you don't have much to give. The manager doesn't have money, but he gives mercy. He uses what's in front of him, his relationships, his small bit of authority to make a difference for someone else. And when I think about that, I see the same truth in the story of the boy who brought 5 loaves and 2 fish. The boy didn't have much either, and he offered what he had, and Jesus turned it into more than enough. Okay, can someone please read Luke 9, 10 through 17? It doesn't have to be that one.
Then he took them with him, and they withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. But the crowds learned about it and followed him. He welcomed them and spoke to them about the kingdom of God and healed those who needed healing. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, "Send the crowd away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging, because we are in a remote place here." He replied, "You give them something to eat." They answered, "We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, unless we go and buy food for all this crowd." About 5,000 men were there. But he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of about 50 each." The disciples did so, and everybody sat down. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them. Then he gave them to the disciples to set before the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over.
Thank you. So imagine what that must have felt like, to stand there and have thousands of people hungry and tired, and the disciples are stressed out because there's not enough food for everybody. And the disciples are trying to do the math, and they say to Jesus, "This isn't going to work. We do not have enough food." But a young boy steps forward, and I brought a little basket with 5 little pieces of bread and 2 fish. And he doesn't have much, but he has 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he gives them away anyways. And when he steps forward, he doesn't think this is enough to feed all of those people. But Jesus has faith that this can feed enough people. To feed thousands of people. Which, by the way, the story only mentions 5,000 men, but we're about the women and the children that were also there in the story. And think about that. And the miracle is not that the food multiplied, but that someone was willing to offer what little they had. And when I look at all of these stories together, the starfish, the manager, and the boy with the loaves and fish, they're all about the same thing, doing something with what you have. The old man on the beach couldn't save every starfish, but he saved the ones in front of him. The manager in Luke 16 didn't have money or status, but he used his little bit of influence to help others. The boy with the loaves didn't have much food, but he gave what he had to Jesus so that it could be multiplied and made enough. Sometimes we think generosity is only about money, or what we have, or that we have to wait until we have more time, more energy, more stability before we can give. But that's not how God works. God takes whatever we have, our time, our kindness, our small acts of service, and turns them into something that might make a difference. You might not be able to find funds to fund a pledge campaign or fix everything that feels broken in the world, but you can give a few minutes, a listening ear, a helping hand, and you can make a difference to one starfish, one person, or a moment. Amen.
Amen.